Thanks. Merci beaucoup. C'est un plaisir d'être ici aujourd'hui avec vous. Moi, j'ai décidé que toute mon présentation va être en français parce que le français est la langue du passion. I'm just kidding. Thank you. I wanted to warm it up to the local folks and use my schoolboy English, French. So my name's Jonathan. I have a hot picture behind me that you guys can just look at for a second, trying to start your passion. And again, my subject of my talk today is passion. And I love being in Montreal because I love the women of Montreal. I happen to marry one. So I feel a lot of passion when I am here. Okay, so just quickly, a little bit about me. That's a big-ass picture. So just two things before I start. One of them is I'm going to swear. So if there's any kids in the room, earmuffs, I'm going to talk about the existence of sex, because how can you not talk about passion if you're talking about sex? And I'm going to give you my perspective. So take whatever advice you want and leave whatever advice you want. It's not personal, nor will I know which advice you take and which advice you leave. Jonathan Bixby, I reformed entrepreneur. I started my first company when I was 22 and sold it when I was 26 in 2006. That company was Iron Point. Then I started my next company, sold it in 2013, and now I am an investor. I invest in really great entrepreneurs in fintech and health tech. You might have heard of some of our companies, Coho being your next bank, or Lenful being the next place you get money, and I could go on. But the purpose of my talk today is not to talk about myself or my companies, it's to talk about passion. And I think you got to start with the one thing that I can guarantee you, which is that you're going to die. So I don't know when it's going to be. It might be now. No, it wasn't now. It might be tomorrow. It might be 2 months from now. But the one thing I can guarantee you is that you will die. And the purpose of this presentation is not to go into death or reincarnation, but it's to kind of put it into context and say to ourselves, let's take this a little bit less seriously. Let's take life a little bit less seriously. Let's live a little bit. Let's live the one life, at least I think the one life we have, with passion. Number two, and these are kind of table stakes for the presentation that we'll come back to, is my God, we're lucky. I am so lucky to be standing here on this stage presenting to you guys, to live in a country like Canada with universal health care and education. I am so lucky to have a family of 3 very healthy boys and a wonderful wife, and you guys are lucky too. And we talk a lot about, success, and I think we have to owe a big portion of our success to luck. So you're lucky you went to school, you're lucky you went to university, hopefully, and you're lucky you're here today. And just the call out for those people who say, I started from a shitty family, my parents abandoned me, I lived in poverty, and I've stepped up the ladder, and I'm here today, all because of me. You're wrong. You're lucky that you had the DNA to get you from there up the ladder to where you are today. It's still luck. Some hard work, but luck. So I want to use that as sort of a springboard into talking about passion. Death and luck actually have something to do with it, and hopefully by the end of the presentation you'll see that. So let's start with what passion is. And I think one of the questions that you have to ask yourself with passion is, I'm not here for self-help. Like, I'm not here to diagnose anyone's passion or lack of passion in their life. The goal of this presentation is not to touch on that, although it is a fundamental question you should ask yourself, and it's to focus rather on passion in a startup. And so when we talk about passion, we're going to focus there. We're not going to focus on your personal life or my personal life. What is the definition of passion? It's not something I actually looked up until I was going to do this presentation. It's actually to suffer. Passion is suffering. So everyone's heard of the movie The Passion of the Christ. It's the suffering that is the definition of passion. That's not how I define passion in my life. I don't define passion as suffering, but maybe I do get some passion from suffering. When I think of passion, certain things come to mind. So this is just a personal sort of story. So number one is music. I am really passionate about music. And so this image is actually taken at a concert in Rio called Rock in Rio. And Rock in Rio is one of the largest concerts in the world, and I was lucky enough to go down about 5 years ago to watch two of my favorite bands, Coldplay and Snow Patrol, down at Rock in Rio. So I'm like this skinny little white guy down with 399,000 of my Brazilian friends. The music started at 1 a.m. At 6 a.m., I had this incredible feeling like I had been to an event with the most passion I've ever felt in my life. All 400,000 people knew the words to every song. They all swayed and had like this crazy dance all together. It was incredible. So for me, who happens to be passionate about music, when I think of passion, I think of music. I'm going to give you another example. When I think of passion, I think of sports. Oh man, I think of sports in this town and the love that Montrealers have for the Canadiens, that is passion. If anyone has not been to the Bell Centre at a playoff game against Boston or Toronto, you don't know what passion is. Those fans are absolutely nuts before, at, and well after the game, and that is passion. When I think of passion, that's what I think about. One more, which is a hot button topic today and every day so far, it's religion. More people have died because of religion than anything else. I'm not going to go into the bad stuff. I'm going to talk about the good stuff, which is religion. Religion incites passion. There is an incredible passion associated with religion in the world. And again, I think that on the positive side, that's very, very special. Now let's contrast that to this. So my son, Max, who is 12, loves The Office. The Office is his favorite show. He's made us watch on Netflix every single season of The Office. The funniest part about Max is he still doesn't get the "that's what she said" joke, so he uses it like 3 times a day incorrectly, and it's just hilarious. So I'll say like, "Hey, there's the toothbrush. That's what she said," and I'll be like, "Yeah, good one, Max." He doesn't get it yet, but the point of the slide is to say, and I'm going to pick a little bit on some people here that are not, startups, but when I think of like working for IBM, anyone from IBM, this is what I think of. When I think of working for like the municipal government of Montreal, if there are no government workers, this is what I think about. I kind of think of it as like soul-sucking, passionless thing. And I'm being a generalist, obviously, and don't tweet that I hate the city of Montreal or I hate IBM. But the point is that generally in an office environment, it's this contrived kind of shit show in terms of these people are brought together to do a job, and then we just talk about passion and it kind of magically happens. And I think the other thing to add to that is how much time we spend in the office. So the reality is that in your working age, 24 to 55, you're going to spend 4 to 5 times more time at the office with your colleagues than you will with your wife and with your kids. Okay, so, and I've experienced that. I'm not super old, but I've been working for, 15, 17 years, and I spend more of my waking productive hours at work than I do with my family. So if you're going to die, it's inevitable, people, just to be clear. If we're kind of lucky and we want to live this life of passion, why is it that we spend most of our time in a less than passionate environment? And so what I'm going to talk to you today about and give you a case study is around the nature sort of versus nurture argument of passion. So there's a lot of management books and seminars written about marketing. The last presentation was amazing, right? 75 tips, do these things, sales guys, leadership, but there's not really a whole lot of academic information about passion. I don't know why that is, and so everyone just kind of says, it'll happen. Passion will happen. I have invested in many startups. I've been a part of startups. I've advised a lot of startups, and I'm going to tell you guys, 10% of those companies have real passion, 10%. And if you really sort of ask yourself, and hopefully a lot of you are entrepreneurs, about whether you've built and instilled and measured passion in your company, I think you might be surprised to find out you're one of those 90%. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about my thesis, and again, it's my thesis around, with some basis of experience around what the underlying issues are around passion. We're going to talk about what to do as a case study, and then I'm going to give you 5 tips. And I'm going to talk to you about the 5 tips in a sec. So the underlying thesis, I'm going to get to the punchline. I believe fundamentally passion is about one thing. And so let's take that example of sports, music, religion, and religion might be a weaker example, but sports and music. The reason that I feel passionate about these things is because I control them. I control my love of the Habs. I control my love of Coldplay. It's within my control. And if you sort of contrast that to work, there's a feeling in work like it's out of my control, right? So it's my boss. It's the priorities of the CEO. It's the priorities of the board. And beyond that, hey, sometimes it's the priorities of the investor. There is a lack of control that I believe is the fundamental crux of the next 20 minutes of my presentation. It's all about real control. People want control. They are built for control, and they will thrive if you give them control. So I'm going to give you a case study. So after I sold my last business in 2006, or my second to last business in 2006, I wanted to create a company. And that company was called Strange Loop Networks. And Strange Loop, we got up to about 75 people. And the core question that we asked when we started the company, and we being my identical twin brother, who I am in business with today very proudly. You can be in business with family, just so everybody knows. But basically, the question was, and this is the question on the HR side, is, hey guys, can we create a company, and this is the goal, it's audacious, where in 50 years, when I am done my career, I being the employee, I can look back and say, you know what? It's not even a question. Strange Loop was the best company I ever worked for in my career. Not even a question. That was the goal from an HR perspective. We built the business up to about 75 people before we sold it, and one of the things I'm really proud of is we won the best company to work for in BC 5 years in a row, which is a great vanity metric, but I think it speaks to some of the things that we were trying to instill. And so what I want to do is go through, we had 3 rules that we built at Strange Loop all around control that we are going to talk about today. In no distinct order, but these are the secrets. And when we hired someone, we repeated the 3 rules. When someone violated the rules, we repeated the 3 rules, and they were a mantra in our business not from day 1, probably from day 300, maybe 400. Number 1, one of my favorite slides that I've ever put together is we had a rule called no assholes. Can everyone see that? I love that slide. Okay, this rule came, and I'm going to tell you the story, but one of the problems with passion and control is that they're assholes, sorry children, that poison that. They poison the well in your business. And they poison the well because they have personal agendas. Honestly, most of it comes from the fact they have low self-esteem, and they poison the business. So let me give you an example. When we started Strange Loop, we went and wanted to go and develop in a language called Debian. Some archaic, stupid idea, but it was Debian. That's what we did. Hey, we're a Debian shop. So what did we do? We said, awesome, let's go hire the best Debian developers on the West Coast. So we hired 2 of them. They will not be named. They were amazing developers, the most efficient, effective, incredible individual contributors I've ever met, and they were both assholes. So to start with, no problem, right? They just dealt with each other, and then we started to build a team around them. And it was a turf war, and it was personal, and it was putting people down. And eventually, we realized that these 2 guys who were responsible, just to be clear, for 80% of our code, 80% of our productivity, were not going to be productive for us as a company in the long run. So one day, I walked in and I fired them both, knowing full well it would bring our dev team back 6 months, but we could not build a true passionate work environment with poison. And so one of the things that I would really, really urge you to look at in your business is having a 0 tolerance for that kind of activity. And trust me, you're going to know it when you start sniffing it out. It's really, really clear who is there for personal gain, who is not a nice person. One of the really cool tests I do with managers is I take them out for lunch and I watch how they interact with the waiting staff. Easiest way to look if someone's a prick is you see how they treat people below them. And if they're not nice, and they're impatient, and they're unreasonable, I don't want to work with you. I have the pleasure and privilege of not having, I choose who I work with now, and many of you or some of you might not. And I understand that. But in a position of power, understand how assholes affect your business and how they affect the passion in your business. Number 2, we measure outputs. So I'm just going to go quickly to allow you to understand this notion because it's really, really important. Since kindergarten, as Western-educated people, we have been told to push our interests aside so that we can learn math and English or French and social studies and whatever the hell our teacher tells us we have to learn, okay? And we are told that success in education, and I'm not going to get into a whole diatribe, that's another presentation, is around sitting your ass in a seat and being told what to do, right? So what that means is our education and those people who are really good at it are awesome at inputs. Oh my God, man, they sit on their ass better than anyone else. They're quieter than anyone else. They listen better than anyone else. Oh my God, you are front row. You guys are amazing students, right? Front row, and I'm picking on you for a reason. I love front row. You're awesome. So, but I don't know if that actually translates to the real world, right? So then in high school, we're kind of thrown a bone and said, hey, like you can take an elective. And in university, you choose a path, but that path has all of these courses you have to take. And so then you get out into the workforce, and it's sort of a step back. The reason our education system is broken, the reason our education system needs changing is because it was based on producing robots for big corporations, right? Take direction, do the job, and get it done. Well, that's all measuring inputs. So at Strange Loop, we only measured outputs. And I want to give you some really clear examples of that. We talk all the time now in TechCrunch and Tech Vibes and BetaKit about no vacation days, right? No sick days, none of that stuff. We did not care where you worked in the globe. We didn't care how hard you worked. We didn't care if you were in the office. We didn't care if you took a 6-hour lunch. There were no rules. All that we did was that at the start of a quarter or the start of a month, you would agree on outputs. Okay? So the easiest one to measure is sales. I'm a sales guy. I'm going to make $1 million of sales this month. Easy, okay? And if you are the smartest freaking sales guy in the world and can get your job done in 1 hour, I love you. You're awesome. I'm not going to make you sit your ass down for another 159 hours. That's retarded. Why would I do that? Go have fun. Lift weights. Meet women. Meet men. Like, do what you want to do. Okay? It just so happens next month your quota will be 2 million, but that's a different story. But the same can be said for developers and QA and marketing. If you give people control over their business, they will get shit done for you. And if you say and truly, truly believe that you don't care where they work and you don't care how hard they work, your business will actually be more productive. Your business will make more money. It's incredible. Now, I know a question in the back of your minds is, oh my God, this dude is really naive because I want to work at his company so I can go to Tahiti and not do shit for a long period of time, right? Okay, so the beauty of instilling this at a corporate level, this idea of not measuring outputs, is the organism does it for you, okay? So imagine everyone has a good deal. We are building a family with a really good deal, a unique deal, a deal that you will look back on in 50 years and say, holy shit, I can't believe I was part of that and was able to work for 5 years in that deal. So what did we have? We had incredibly high involuntary turnover, which is the polite word for saying if someone took advantage of the system, if someone was an asshole, the organism wouldn't accept it. From the lowest office manager, QA, analyst, intern, all the way up to management, because no one wants to screw up a good thing. So for those people who really feel like they need to control, all those CEOs that made someone come to the office at 8 a.m. today and made them sit on their ass in their desk at Facebook and Twitter and whatever the hell else they did, really think about what you're trying to do in terms of creating passion in your work environment. I'm going to move on to number 3. Number 3 is fundamental, okay? So family. So when I'm 90 years old,
hope to God I get there in a healthy state, and I'm in my Depends or diaper in the old age home. Let's just pretend that, let's give the visual, right? I'm not going to remember standing up on this Startupfest stage. I'm not going to remember money or the money I made or the companies I did. Guys, there's only one thing you're going to remember, and that's your family. And so as a company, you have to have this as a priority. Have to. Happy life, happy wife, or whatever the vice versa. It's true. If you're not happy in your personal life, you are not going to be productive at work. It's a guaranteed. I've seen too many experiences where, and to be clear, I'm not trying to make people happy. It's not something I can control, but family comes first. And I'm going to repeat that again. Family comes first. At Strange Loop, you have a family emergency. You have a sick child, and you have the most important sales meeting of your life. What are you going to do? You're going to the kid. You're going to take care of your family, and the sales meeting is going to wait. If you're getting pressured by a client to do something and you're not comfortable because you have family issues, sorry, client, I got to take a week off. I'm going to get back to you in a week. And if that client wants to leave us for that reason, we don't want them as a client. So this is fundamental. This underlies all of passion, because if you don't have passion in your personal life, if you're not happy in your personal life, then you know what? You are not going to be productive at work. Okay, so when I first said to Alistair Kroll that I was going to do this passion conversation, I'll take a question in a sec. Alistair said, you're a West Coast guy. Oh, hi. Sorry. Oh, there's Alistair. Sorry, I didn't see that. Alistair said two things. You're a West Coast guy, and you're going to come onto the stage and fucking give me Kumbaya with a guitar. That's what he said. So my guitar is, I'm a lefty, so my guitar's out there. But the point is that I need to give you some tips and tricks, okay? So I need to give you, and I'm going to give you 5, very specific things that you can do in your startup today. That you can, if you aren't the boss of your startup or the founder of your startup, you can ask someone else to do or be a spearhead for. Okay, and they're very specific. So not 75, because that was amazing. I don't have the voice for that. 5. I'm a simple man. Number 1, surprise. So I kept a surprise spreadsheet, okay? And what I did was every single employee that we had at Strangeloop, let's take Birgit as an example, the best VP finance you could ever have. She loved Cirque du Soleil, loved it. She just loved it. And what I did is I found that out. As the leader, she didn't know I found out. I found out. And once every 6 months, I would surprise her with something from the company related to her passion. Okay? So another example, Lee loved climbing. Dan loved the Canucks. And so what I would do is I'd find stuff about, when we were 75 people, I found stuff out about everyone. They didn't know. And I put it into a spreadsheet, and every 6 months, I'm going to surprise you. And the key is, and it's psychological, I'm going to tie your passion into passion about work. And I'm going to do it in a surprise way. And it's incredible. Birgit rolls into Vegas. She's going with her husband. She walks in. She's got 2 tickets to Cirque du Soleil on the bed, love from Strangeloop, with a card that's everyone signed. Now, for those people who are bootstrapped and do not have financing and say, I'm not buying Cirque du Soleil tickets for every single one of my employees, you can do this on the cheap. Let me give you an example. Let me give you a good example. Kent loved, Starbucks when they come out with their gingerbread lattes? Kent freaking loved gingerbread lattes. And Kent loved them so much that on December 1st, which is I think when Starbucks comes out with gingerbread lattes, every single December 1st, I'd walk up to Kent when he walked in the office and I'd hand him a gingerbread latte. Simple, $4, $5. Unbelievable how that creates this tie, and it's psychological, between passion outside of work and passion in work. Number 2, you will never compete with Google or Cisco or Shopify or Hootsuite for perks. Don't even try. Ping pong table, they'll get a fucking bigger ping pong table. You paint your walls pink, they're going to paint their walls pink and green. Like, you're not winning that game whoever's at Shopify, Hootsuite, or anyone else. Don't try. Do thoughtful things. So that stuff's window dressing. What we did, which is a tip you can install in your company right now, is we asked one of our employees to go half-time as the concierge of our business. Okay? And so what that meant was any employee could go and ask the concierge for anything they wanted, as long as it was legal and appropriate. That was important. That was an important caveat. The concierge organized 4 weddings. The concierge organized multiple births. The concierge organized anything you wanted. There was no rules. Just go and ask this person for what you wanted, and they'd take care of it. No questions asked, they take care of it. Unbelievable what that does for a business. It does 2 things. It tells your employees you care deeply about them, and it gets shit off their plate, so, hey, look, they can be more productive at work. It helps. Don't compete on perks like good coffee. Compete on services. Maybe that's a good way of putting it. Products versus service, go service all the way. Service-oriented. Next one, which I've talked about earlier, but I'm going to reinforce it. You are with these people in sickness and in death, okay? And sickness and death happens. When sickness and death happens, you double down on these people. You reinvest. You overinvest. That's their time of need. So when you get to a certain size of your business, you are going to see it. And we're going to see it in our lifetimes with our parents, right? My parents, as an example, or your parents eventually if you're younger. You're going to need to take time off work to deal with that stuff. Don't nickel and dime them on unpaid leave. Don't nickel and dime them. If they have to go to Ontario, pay for their plane ticket. In sickness and in death, you double down. And the dividend, and again, the ROI, call it whatever you want, is incalculable. Because most companies will look at it and say that trip to Ontario is $500, $700. That's too much. I pay this person only $4,000 a month. You don't get it. In sickness and in death, double down. 2 more, and then we'll have some time for questions. Measure, measure, measure. Okay, so I've got 3 tricks. Number 1, have company socials. Don't tell anybody this, but as the leader, have a number in your head. My number was 80%. If I didn't get 80% of my employees out for a social, I was failing, right? And then you say how many of their spouses came out, how many kids came out. That's a barometer for passion. We did stupid shit like karaoke night. I'll never forget karaoke night. Sean Bissell, who's like this big, arm wrestled. He was hammered. He arm wrestled this other guy's wife. And he got beat so bad, his hand, like he flew off the table. And it was like the classic thing in our company forever. Sean Bissell got his ass kicked by someone's wife. It was awesome. Do company socials. And if you have passion and you have camaraderie and you have family, the barometer is easy, man. See how many people show up. See what time they leave. See how awkward it is. Alcohol really lubricates this whole experience. But don't do stupid shit. Like, don't do boring socials. That's number 1. Number 2, measure actually quarterly or monthly. And don't do it like sending a stupid survey out. Talk to your managers and use some metrics like sick days, pay involuntary leave, things like showing up to certain things that you want them to show up to, things like how often they're like contributing things, but use off-the-cuff measures, not a survey that says, do you like working here, that are proxies for whether they like working there. And what you'll see over time is that people on certain measurements, and it depends on and the reason I'm being a bit vague is because it depends on the skill set of the area of expertise, you will start to measure passion. Third, we had an all-hands, what we called Athenian democracy meeting every single month, all the way up to when we were 75 people. Everyone in a room, let's talk about real shit, and be super open. Open, transparent with your employees. Don't surprise employees. It's just a bad idea. It doesn't work, and it's a bad idea. So transparency, and most importantly, voice it in a room with no filter. Like, don't just filter everything. Get in a room and say, hey, and I would stand up and say, what's wrong with our business? and someone, the same people mostly, would put their hand up and say, this is broken, and then this is broken, this is broken, that's really good to know, really good to measure. Okay. One of the best pieces of advice I've ever received as a leader is this: wait. Now, I'm talking because I'm on stage, but the question of why am I talking is incredibly powerful, and I'm going to give you some examples. For you guys are all smart. We already talked about luck. You guys are intelligent, successful, amazing people. And for every idea that I come up with, I guarantee every single person in this audience could add 5%. You could make my idea 5% better, okay? But as the leader, when you add your 5%, you take away passion. You take away ownership. So you have to be judicious, and this is something that was really freaking hard for me because I was the front row guy, I was the hands up guy, I'm the talker. And when I really stop and think about it, 50% of the time that I'm talking, when I say to myself, why am I talking? It's because I want to sound smart. Because I'm smart. I want everyone to know, you in the back, I'm smart. But as a leader, you have to think of the downside. There's a consequence to being the smart guy, to adding your 3%. If I take away 40% of your initiative, if I take away your passion because now it's my idea, I've royally screwed up as a leader. Don't talk all the time. Ask yourself the question in your next meeting, wait, why the hell, that's not what it is, am I talking? Okay, we're almost done. I want to revisit this because I have to end on this note. So we all strive in life to be incredible startup entrepreneurs, right? We're all playing the game. We all want to be better. The reason we're at this conference, this great conference, is because we want to be better. But the reality is, if you take my example of death, I'm pulling this full circle. At the end of the day, all you have is family, okay? And so I challenge you to do one thing today, and that is when you go home tonight, ask someone in your family how you can be better at being their family member. How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better son? How could I be a better dad? And get better at the most important thing. We spend all this time at work. We spend all this time bettering ourselves to be faster, better, stronger. That's not the point. The point is happiness derives from your personal relationships, and you have to ask yourself the question and ask others the question of how can I be better? So we have 5 minutes left. I'm going to go to the provocative slide again because I just think it's hot. Any questions? Thank you so much.
First question, is that you in the picture, John?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, I thought so. All right, we got time for 2 questions. So 2 questions. Anyone interested? Whoa, we're going there. I will let no question go unasked. Excuse me, watch your feet in the front. Thank you very much. Watch your laptop bag, sir.
There we go.
Thank you. This is more treacherous for me than you, I promise.
I've got a microphone. I'm good. Thank you. Sorry to take the
Go
phone
for it.
down. Question for you,
Yeah.
Jonathan. What happens when the asshole is actually the charismatic leader of your startup?
Boom. That's a great question. You revolt, man. Revolt. I mean, I think the question honestly would be, do you have funding? If you have funding, revolt. Revolt. And otherwise leave and go find a startup where there's no assholes. I mean, there's 2 sides to that equation. Get rid of them or leave. It's not worth the pain of dealing with an asshole. You can't change people. Don't revolt. I would revolt first, and if that didn't work, I'd leave.
She doesn't work for one of your companies, does she?
No.
Okay, good. All right, do we have another question? All right, can they find you online if they have more questions later?
At Jonathan Bixby and on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. Another
Thanks,
round of
guys.
applause for Jonathan. Thanks, man.